Hi, I'm Aaron Parecki from Backpedal TV. I'm going to do a quick walkthrough of the SlingStudio live video mixer. I just got it and I just set up all the cameras and some iPods, so I'm pretty excited to give it a shot and see how this works. Most of the videos that I do are filming live conferences and events, small meetups, that kind of thing. So I usually end up with a presenter with a computer plugged into a projector behind them, and then one or two cameras, one usually close up on them, one usually far away or looking at the audience, depending on the event. So I'm really excited to try this out the next time I do a live event, because this will all fit in a backpack. And that's going to save a lot of setup time when I do this for just a short evening event. So I have a few things plugged into the device right now. This is what my desk looks like right now. I've got the iPad controller here. I've got an iPod Touch here, which is looking at the HDMI monitor. I've got my iPhone here, iPhone 6s, and then above me there's a camera, or rather an iPod Touch pointing above, and lastly there is the camera that you first saw, which is a regular video camera plugged into the wireless transmitter from SlingStudio. I'll go through the cameras right now. This is the Canon G20. It's a pretty decent camera. It's about $600 to $900 depending on when you get it and where from. It does a pretty good job. Not the best thing in the world. No interchangeable lenses. This angle is my iPhone 6s front-facing camera. So the front-facing camera is okay. The rear-facing camera is obviously better. I just don't have enough things to point the rear-facing camera at me and also see that. This camera is the iPod Touch, and it is looking at the HDMI monitor, which is plugged into the SlingStudio. I don't know what just happened. That's so I can show you what I'm seeing on the screen here. Above me is an iPod Touch. That's what this one looks like. And then I also have an HDMI input from my laptop. And since the SlingStudio only supports 4 cameras at a time, I will have to switch to bring that one in, and then now you can see the HDMI input. So those are all the cameras. This app is surprisingly easy to use, and everything just sort of works when you set it up. I'm actually going to switch my HDMI input so that you can see the iPad. So I'm going to plug in the little iPad HDMI dongle, feeding into the wired input of the SlingStudio. That should pop up here down in the corner, and now I can bring this live, and now you're seeing what I'm seeing on the iPad, which is all of the sources. I'm super impressed with this program. This is super well done. So all of these devices are connected to the Wi-Fi hotspot that SlingStudio made. That way it's dedicated, isolated from all the other traffic on the local network. A couple of questions I had when I was researching this product that I did not find answers to. I'm going to run through those right now. So the first question I had was, what does the HDMI output port on the SlingStudio actually send out? Turns out the answer is a lot of things. I'm going to switch over to the iPad here. There is this little HDMI out setting, and here you can choose, do you want to show program output, HDMI pass-through, which is whatever is being shown in the input, or the quad view. Yeah, so you can kind of see the program output monitor on my iPad screen. It's kind of a tunnel window thing going on, but you get the idea. So if I switch the HDMI output to program video, then now the monitor shows whatever I'm sending out to the live stream and recording to disk. I can switch that to show HDMI pass-through, which obviously looks the same right now because the HDMI is what's in program, but if I switch program out to my top camera, you can see the HDMI monitor still shows what the iPad is sending out. This is actually a super cool feature because what it means is I can take this box to an event, put it next to the podium. The presenter can plug in their laptop to this device, and then I can plug this device into the projector. So I can show on the projector, I can have it show their screen, but I can also be capturing the screen for the recording. And I don't need a separate device. I was thinking I was going to have to bring a separate splitter and use one of the wireless transmitters, but this saves that step. The next question I had was whether the HDMI input can actually do scaling of various inputs. And it looks like the answer is it can. So right now I have the iPad plugged in and it's handling that just fine, but the iPad will send out a 1080 signal. If I want to plug it into a computer, which may not be sending a 1080 signal, because we all know that getting presenters' laptops to work with projectors is always a pain, it turns out it works surprisingly well still. So I'm going to go ahead and switch this back to my computer output. And we're going to do a couple tests here. So here you can see my laptop is outputting a signal that looks decent on it, and then it's making it into the switcher just fine. You can see it on the iPad, the little preview I have here. Let's go ahead and change the computer signal to scaled for the built-in Retina display. Okay, great, looks fine, larger text. It's gonna look a little weird, but hey, look, it still works. And sure enough, my program output still shows it in the right resolution. So I'm pretty happy with that. That means I don't need to bring a scaler with me, and I can just have people plug in directly into that device, and it will handle scaling. I also got a little shotgun mic for an iPhone, because I wanted to see how well that works. Right now, you're listening to me through a lav mic plugged into this Tascam recorder, which is actually hardwired into the device. Normally, I do audio totally separately from all the cameras at events, so this is simulating that setup where I would normally have a separate audio mixer with either one or more mics, and I can just run a line input to that to the device, which is sitting down next to the table here. But I also wanted to check out what happens if I try to use a shotgun mic on the phone. So I'm going to show you what I'm looking at on the iPad here. Switch to the audio mixer, and this is pretty neat. This has a couple of options here. I can do audio line, I can adjust levels from the audio line in, but then my shotgun microphone is plugged into the phone in front of me. So I'm going to bring that phone in here in place of that one, and that's this phone on the iPad PK phone. So I'm going to switch the audio from what you're hearing right now to the audio from the phone. So as I am pulling this volume down, and I'll bring the audio back up from the phone. So now what we've got is got a shotgun mic on the phone. I'll just pick up this little iPod and show you what I'm seeing here. Here's the phone. Here's a little shotgun mic. Hopefully that sounds decent, because I'm hoping I can use that as a backup audio source in case I don't have an actual audio mixer on me. And I'll just put it on the closest iPhone to the presenter. Back to the iPad, the audio mixer lets you choose which cameras are sending audio in. You can also have them auto follow video, AFV, so that if I change camera angles, it'll use the mic from that camera. I typically don't do events like that. Normally I just have a master audio input for the whole program. So I'll switch back to my lav mic here. Back on the lav mic now. The other thing I was wondering about was how you actually can load custom graphics onto the switcher. I saw some references to this, but I couldn't find much information or walkthroughs of that. So I put some graphics on this little hard drive, USB-C. There's a USB-C port on the back of the device. They sell a hub, a little breakout that gives a USB 3 jack as well as a Ethernet, but you can also plug in a USB-C drive directly. So I put some graphics onto this drive and I'm going to plug it in. Once it's plugged into the device, it shows up as a drive that you can load from. You can add both video clips as well as still images. I was pretty impressed with this. So you can go add graphics, browse to your storage, and then any of the any PNG or other image formats will show up in this list here. The device also has some amount of internal storage, So you can actually copy the graphics from the USB drive, into the device so that you can unplug the drive later and still use them. I think it's a really great idea. I'm planning on using that for the static images, things like the corner bugs or the title screens, lower third overlays, etc. So hit copy. Apparently you can't do that while it's recording. That's fine. I've already done it. And then you, once you've copied it, you browse to the internal storage, and then you can add to the project. You can also add video files. So you can export like a MOV file and then play it back from this device. I think that's pretty cool. Planning on using that for some overlays, background animations, and that kind of thing. Adding a video clip works the same way as adding a graphics file. You can browse to the drive and choose it from there. I can't find how much storage space is on the device itself. I'm assuming it's not a whole lot, and I haven't actually tried copying a video clip. I have a video clip in here that's about 1.5 gigs or so. I tried playing that back and it actually crashed the device and the device rebooted. I did, however, I was able to use a short, like 2-minute long video. So I'm going to pull that in here. So once you've loaded a video clip, it shows up as one of the other cameras. That does mean it takes the place of one of your cameras, so you still only have 4 to choose from. Now that the video clip is queued up as a camera angle, you can hit play, and while it's playing, you can see the progress bar is moving there. You can just move that to program whenever you want, just like it was a real camera. So I think that's pretty cool. That's a pretty neat feature. Probably will use it for this kind of thing, little background graphics. So as for the graphic overlays, let's switch back to the iPad view, and you go to the graphics tab, and then you can click on these and they pull in here. Now I noticed that it doesn't immediately, this is a 1920 by 1080 file, and it doesn't full screen it by default, but if you click this, it'll jump to full screen. So that's set there, and then you can, in addition to that, you can start adding text over it. So I can drag this text here, change the name, change the size. It's kind of hard to position it. Some of them, sometimes you can't get it as small as you want. I do recommend, if you have exact requirements for what the graphics look like, you do it just as an image, and then you can just bring the image in. The other neat feature with the graphics overlays is if you have something like this where there's a corner bug, you can actually pin it, and that will make it so that anytime you switch to a different input, so let's move this to program, all right. If you switch to a different camera angle, for example, the corner bug stays there even though the graphic overlay has disappeared. So that's what this little pin icon does. Now, as I'm switching camera angles, it'll stay in the corner there. So that's a really quick overview of the graphic overlays, loading files from the USB drive. You can also load files from the SD card that it's recording onto. Obviously, you're not going to take that out while you're recording, but there's 2 ways to get files in. If you are in the middle of this and you want to pop out the USB drive, you can. You can eject the USB drive and pull it out even while we're recording, obviously. So that's the end of my overview of the SlingStudio hub. Overall, I'm super impressed. This was surprisingly easy to set up. Everything just works. It's very stable. All the cameras are in sync, which is one thing I was worried about since everything is wireless. It's doing very well despite everything flying through the air. So yeah, I'm super excited to try this out for the next meetup I'm filming. Thanks for watching, and let me know if you have any questions in the comments.